Hey there, I'm Michael Vega, 52 years old, living in a quiet little town in the Midwest. I spent 6 years of my life looking after my wife, Emily, who was said to be paralyzed after a terrible accident. But everything changed 3 days ago. It all began when I took Emily to the hospital due to a respiratory infection. The doctor came out of the exam room with a look on his face that I'll never forget. He looked me in the eye and, with a trembling voice, said, "Mr. Vega, you need to call the police." I was taken aback. Why on earth would he say that? You might be curious about what life was like for me before that day, so let me give you a glimpse. My life was all about sacrifice and devotion. Every morning, I'd drag myself out of bed at the crack of dawn, all stiff from a night spent in that uncomfortable armchair by Emily's bed. No matter how exhausted I felt, the first thing I'd do was smile at her. "Morning, my love," I'd say, gearing up for her morning routine. "Tuesday, time for a full bath." My days were all about these meticulously planned routines. For Emily's bath, I had to get the water just right, lay out the towels, grab the gentle soap to avoid irritating her sensitive skin, and set up the portable bathtub next to the hospital bed we'd set up in our living room. Everything had to be perfect before getting started. "All right, honey, let's get out of these pajamas," I'd say softly, as I carefully undressed her still form. Emily was once a dancer, full of zest and always on the move until everything changed in a blink. They told me a truck ran a red light while she was crossing the road. I wasn't there. I was away for work, and man, I've never stopped blaming myself for it. Through trial and error, I figured out how to care for her, how to move her without causing pain, how to support her neck, how to maintain her dignity while bathing her. "Do you know what day it is?" I'd say while washing her back. "It's our 27th wedding anniversary. Remember our wedding?" I cherished talking to her during bath times. The doctors insisted, even if she couldn't talk back, she was aware of everything. They taught us a simple system: 1 blink for yes, 2 for no. That's how we communicated. That day, as I was wrapping up her bath, the phone rang. It was Linda, Emily's sister. "Morning, Michael. How's my sister today?" she asked. "We're just finishing her morning wash-up. Everything's the usual," I replied. "Great. I'll come by this afternoon. Need to chat about some paperwork for my folks' place." "All right, we'll be here." After the call, I noticed something different in Emily's eyes. It was as if she was trying to tell me something. "Are you in pain?" I asked her. "Blink once for yes, twice for no." She blinked twice, slowly. No pain, but something else was bothering her. "Linda's coming over later. You'll be happy to see her," I said, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. I chalked it up to my imagination. After years of caregiving and sleepless nights, I'd sometimes see things that weren't there. While I fed her blended oatmeal with honey and orange juice, just as the doctors recommended, someone knocked loudly on the door. "Who is it?" I shouted from the living room. "It's David, Emily's cousin. Need a word with you, Michael." David, the awkward family member who always seemed to show up with some business idea that only ever seemed to benefit him. "Give me a minute," I muttered without much enthusiasm, then wiped Emily's mouth and promised I'd be back. I opened the door to find David, dressed to the nines as usual, strolling in with his typical air of superiority that really rubbed me the wrong way. "Michael, you look exhausted. Can we talk privately?" "Emily's eating right now. What do you need?" I asked. Shortening his stories wasn't his strong suit. "It's about Uncle Robert's inheritance," he whispered urgently. "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything," David said. "Robert left a sizable trust fund for Emily under the condition that it's used for her care," he went on. David looked me in the eyes and said, "You've been taking care of my cousin every single day, basically giving up your own life. That money could be put to better use." I'm using it just like Robert wanted, for Emily's care, I said. Sure, but what about those experimental treatments abroad? David began, but I didn't let him continue. There's no we here, David. That money is for Emily alone, and I'm deciding how it's used based on what she needs medically. You're being stubborn. Just hear me out, he insisted. We could put part of that trust into a specialized clinic with me in charge. Emily would get top-notch care and you could finally take a break. I kept my cool and looked at him. A clinic under your management? That's convenient. No thanks. David didn't give up. It's a solid business proposition, he argued, but I stood my ground. No, David, and I've got to go. My wife is waiting for her breakfast. David clenched his fists, but kept that fake grin on. This isn't over, Michael. I'll come back with documents, maybe even lawyers if I must. You're being selfish, acting like only you care about Emily. Goodbye, David. After he finally left, I went back to Emily. Her eyes were open wide, and I saw a hint of worry in them. Don't you worry, my love. No one else is making choices for us. The morning drifted by as usual, filled with Emily's therapy, some reading, and that classical music she loves. Then the phone rang again. It was my sister Lucy. How are things, Michael? She asked. As tired as usual? And you? Worried about you, as I always am, she replied. Heard anything about Sarah? Sarah, our other sister, vanished 2 years ago without a trace. The police looked into it, but came up empty. She just disappeared. Nothing new. It's like she vanished off the face of the earth, I said. I still think hiring a private investigator could help, Lucy pressed on. We already did that, Lucy, and he found nothing. But that guy was cheap. Maybe we should hire someone better. With what money? Everything I've got goes into taking care of Emily. That's sort of why I called, she started cautiously. I've been thinking, maybe it's time to consider placing Emily in a specialized facility. You're not serious, right? Did David put you up to this? I asked. David? No. Why? She responded, puzzled. I filled her in about Emily's cousin's visit earlier. Lucy sighed deeply on the other end. No, I haven't talked to him. But think about it. You haven't really lived in 6 years, and especially after what happened to Sarah. I'm not leaving Emily. I cut her off. It's not about abandonment. It's about getting professional help. You need some space to breathe. And for what, Lucy? To hunt for Sarah? We've done everything we can. Not just for Sarah, for you. You need to get back a part of your life. That discussion wore me out. It was the same old argument with my family. I need to go. Emily's about to wake from her nap. Later, after feeding Emily her lunch and getting her set for her usual nap, I noticed something strange on her nightstand. There was a bottle of pills I didn't recognize. I was sure the doctor hadn't prescribed anything new. I picked it up and looked at the label. It was smudged, hard to read. What are these, Emily? I asked, showing her the bottle. Her reaction was unexpected. Her eyes widened, and she started blinking frantically, breaking our usual code. Stay calm, my love. Did someone give you these pills? I asked. 1 blink for yes. Linda? I guessed. 2 blinks. No? David? I questioned again. A long blink. Yes. My anger started to rise. What was David doing giving Emily medication behind my back? I slipped the bottle into my pocket, planning to have the doctor check it out. The afternoon stretched on, and Linda arrived on time, as expected, carrying a folder of paperwork. Hey, Michael, she greeted me with a quick peck on the cheek. How's she doing? The same, I replied tersely, thinking about the pill bottle. Linda went over to Emily, took her hand, and said, Hi, Em. You're looking great today. For the second time that day, I sensed something was off. Emily didn't light up like she usually did when seeing her sister. Instead, she seemed tense, maybe even a bit scared. "What did you want to discuss?" I asked Linda as I handed her a cup of coffee. "Look, it's about the house our parents left us," she mentioned while laying some papers on the table. "You know it was meant for Emily and me. Given everything going on, I think we ought to—" "Why don't you just sell it?" I heard someone pipe up. "What? Sell it? That house means the world to both of us." "Emotional attachment won't pay the bills, Michael. Plus, the cash could do wonders for improving Emily's treatment." And here we go again. First, David was all about dipping into the trust fund. Then Lucy dropped hints about placing Emily in a facility. And now, Linda's pushing the sell the house option. Emily would never go for that. "Emily can't really decide on this right now," Linda said, her tone frosty enough to send a shiver down my spine. "You might have her medical power of attorney, but as co-heir, I get a say in what happens with the house, too." "I guess we'd better get a lawyer to weigh in," I said, trying to stall for time. "I already have." Linda shoved a pile of paperwork my way. "These are the first of the sale documents. I just need your signature as Emily's legal rep to get the ball rolling." I stared at the papers, but kept my hands away. Something didn't sit right. First, David with his sudden trust fund focus. Now, Linda was in a rush to sell the house. "I'll need some time to read through these, talk to my own lawyer." "There isn't much time, Michael. There's a buyer offering a massive amount, but they're only interested until the end of the month." "Linda, I'm sorry, but I can't sign anything today." I caught a flicker of what looked like pure anger in Linda's eyes, though she hid it quickly. "Fine, but just think it over. We could all use the money." Linda leaned in to say goodbye to Emily, whispering something I couldn't catch. Emily's expression changed just a little. Once we were alone, I sat beside her. "What did Linda say?" Emily blinked quickly, clearly upset. "It's okay, take your time." "Did she threaten you?" I asked. One blink. That meant yes. A shiver ran down my back. "Was it about selling the house?" Two blinks. "No." "That trust fund your uncle set up?" One blink. "Yes." Something was seriously off with David and Linda, and it seemed connected to those mysterious pills. I felt like Emily was in trouble, but putting the pieces together was like trying to solve a twisted puzzle. That night, as Emily slept, I combed through the paperwork. It wasn't just about the house sale. They included a forged power of attorney with my fake signature, giving Linda control over Emily's whole financial situation, even the trust fund. The document said it was dated 3 months ago. My signature had been forged without me knowing. Hands shaking, I grabbed my phone and rang Dr. Mendes, Emily's main doctor. "Sorry to call you so late, doctor, but it's urgent. I need Emily to have a checkup first thing tomorrow." "Is her condition deteriorating?" he asked. "I'm not sure, but I've discovered some unlisted medication, and her family's behavior is worrisome." "I see. Bring her in tomorrow morning. We'll do a thorough check and figure out those pills," he assured me. Sleep escaped me as I watched over Emily that night. For the first time in 6 years, I questioned everything and everyone. What if the accident wasn't an accident at all? Could my sister Sarah's disappearance be tied to this? Was my commitment to Emily part of a scheme too sinister to imagine? The next morning, I got Emily ready in a rush. "We're going to the hospital for a routine checkup," I told her. As I dressed her, I saw what seemed like a tear slip down her cheek. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'm going to keep you safe." The drive to the hospital felt tense. Every red light reminded me of that so-called accident that took everything from my wife. Every corner we turned made me think about all the twists and lies from the past 6 years. Once we got there, Dr. Mendes met us in person. He gave Emily a comprehensive examination while I waited outside, clutching the bottle of pills, a silent witness to something being very wrong. We'll need to run some blood tests and neurological studies, he informed me after the initial check. This could take a few hours. You can wait in the family lounge. While waiting, I phoned my lawyer to report the forged documents. He said we'd start legal proceedings later that day. Time seemed to crawl as I lingered by Emily's room, watching the nurses come and go. At one point, Dr. Mendes made his way back, bringing another doctor along, both of them wearing expressions that set my nerves on edge. With a gravitas in his voice, Dr. Mendes approached Mr. Vega. "We need to have a conversation," he said, his words wavering as though they weighed heavily on him. "Your wife's tests revealed something troubling." Mr. Vega, taken off guard, replied, "What's wrong? Is she getting worse?" The doctor let out a sigh before continuing, "Michael, you need to contact the police immediately." His statement reverberated through the hospital hallway, hitting like a thunderbolt. Mr. Vega was left bewildered, grasping to understand. "The police? Why? What's going on with Emily?" Dr. Mendes exchanged a glance with the neurologist, identifiable by his attire, and led Mr. Vega into a smaller room, shutting the door behind them. "What I need to tell you isn't easy," the doctor started, visibly stressed as he rubbed his temples. "We've conducted multiple tests on your wife: electromyography, MRI, extensive blood work." Tension was visibly wearing on Mr. Vega. "Your wife is not actually paralyzed, Mr. Vega." The tide of reality hit Mr. Vega, leaving him dizzy, and he clutched the nearest surface for support. "That's impossible. She hasn't moved a muscle in 6 years. I've been taking care of everything." The neurologist interjected, "The tests are conclusive. Her spinal cord shows no damage. There's no muscle deterioration you'd typically see after 6 years of immobility. Her muscles appear to have been used recently." Mr. Vega, in disbelief, countered, "But I'm with her every day. She can't move, can't speak. We talk through blinks." Dr. Mendes laid out a folder on the table, revealing its contents. "We also found traces of certain substances in her bloodstream, benzodiazepines, in regulated amounts, causing paralysis-like symptoms without endangering her life." Mr. Vega sank into a seat, trying to process this turn of events. "Are you suggesting Emily has been faking it for 6 years?" "Not faking," the neurologist corrected, "but being deliberately drugged just enough to imitate paralysis. Someone's keeping her in this condition, and it appears she might be complicit," added Dr. Mendes. Mr. Vega, his hands trembling, pulled out a small bottle from his pocket, stammering, "I found this on her nightstand. I've never seen this medicine before." The doctor examined the bottle. "This isn't anything prescribed here. We'll need to analyze it. Could be linked to the drugs we've found in her." Overwhelmed, Mr. Vega whispered, "Who's been giving her this?" Though the answer loomed large. "That's for the authorities to investigate," Dr. Mendes assured him. "We've halted all medications. If our diagnosis is correct, she should regain movement soon." "I need to see her," Mr. Vega insisted, standing up. "But first, the authorities need to be involved. This might be medical abuse, possibly even attempted murder." The weight of the word murder was palpable. Dr. Mendes continued, "The long-term use of these substances could have caused irreversible damage. It's a miracle she hasn't suffered from serious kidney or liver issues." After contacting the police, Dr. Mendes detailed further, "Initial blood analysis shows a deliberate pattern of dosing. Someone has been administering it with near-professional precision, enough to keep symptoms at bay, yet undetectable in standard tests." Mr. Vega felt defeated. "I brought her for checkups every other month. How did we miss this?" Dr. Mendes explained, "The doses were likely altered before checkups, syncing with her supposed condition by reducing levels for those appointments." He hesitated before continuing, "Her visits have been sparser this past year." "Linda arranged those," Mr. Vega remembered, noting that Emily's sister took charge of planning the appointments, supposedly to ease his burden. Within a quarter of an hour, two police officers arrived. Detective Miranda Suarez, a composed woman in her 40s, took the lead. "I need you to start from the beginning," she told Mr. Vega. As the doctors laid out the evidence, Mr. Vega struggled to make sense of everything. 6 years of his life felt as if they were unraveling. "I was away in Chicago for a business trip with my small crafts company when Linda called," he began, piecing together events from a once clear past, now clouded with uncertainty. "Emily's sister gave me a call to inform me that Emily had been in an accident. A truck had ignored a red light while she was crossing the street, and it hit her. I hadn't seen the police report yet. Linda had managed everything. By the time I reached the hospital, Emily was already unconscious. The doctors, not Dr. Mendes, but the ones who first attended to her, told me she had spinal cord damage and would never walk again." "Do you remember who those doctors were?" "Dr. Valenzuela was the main one, though I'm pretty sure he's not at this hospital anymore." "Yep," Dr. Mendes added. "Valenzuela quit about 4 years ago. He moved overseas, if I'm not mistaken." The detective jotted that down and pressed on. "Who else was involved in your wife's care?" "At first, a nurse named Laura taught me how to take care of her. But after a few months, Linda decided it was too expensive since I already knew how to manage. David, Emily's cousin, came by sometimes too, supposedly to help, but our talks always veered towards her uncle's trust fund, meant for her care." Detective Suarez leaned in closer. "Can you share more about the trust fund?" "Well, Emily's uncle Robert left her a significant amount, about $3 million, in a trust just for medical costs if she ever got seriously sick. After the accident, since I'm her husband and legal guardian, I could only use that money for her medical needs." "Who oversees this fund as the trustee?" "That's me, alongside a notary and a lawyer named Morales. Any withdrawals need both my approval and his. And about the family home Linda wanted to sell, it's located in the historic downtown area and is likely worth $5 million or more. Their parents left it to Emily and Linda after they passed." The detective kept me talking for nearly an hour. Every answer revealed a new side I hadn't considered. "One more question for now," she eventually said. "You mentioned your sister Sarah disappeared 2 years ago. Could you tell me more?" A lump formed in my throat. Sarah used to come by to help with Emily. She once noted strange behavior from Linda and wanted to dig deeper. Then, the following week, she vanished. She left a note saying she needed time to herself and was heading to the coast, but we've heard nothing since. Didn't that seem odd to you?" "Of course it did. I hired a private investigator, but he came up empty. The police said she was an adult who probably left willingly, with no signs of foul play and no reason to suspect a crime." The detective closed her notebook. "Mr. Vega, we're reopening the investigation into your sister's disappearance. I also need to speak with your wife now." The thought made my heart race. "Can I be there?" "I'd like to talk to her alone first. According to her doctors, she should soon regain her ability to communicate." Dr. Mendes interrupted. "To be honest, I suggest Mr. Vega be present. The patient might feel more comfortable." The detective reluctantly agreed. Entering Emily's room, I was shocked to see her eyes wide open, more alert than they'd been in years. Our eyes connected, and rather than love or guilt, I saw raw, pure fear. "Mrs. Vega, I'm Detective Miranda Suarez. Can you understand me?" Emily gave a slight nod. That small movement took my breath away. For 6 years, blinking had been her only form of response. "According to Dr. Mendes, you'll soon be able to speak once the medications wear off. Until then, gestures will do. Do you know who's been giving you these substances?" Emily first looked at me, then shifted her eyes to the detective. She nodded again. "Was it your sister, Linda?" Another nod, more emphatic this time. "Was there anyone else?" Yet another nod. "David, the cousin?" Yes? Anyone else? Emily closed her eyes for a moment, like she was gathering strength. When she opened them again, her lips trembled before she silently mouthed a name, clear as day. Valenzuela, the initial doctor, the one who had diagnosed her paralysis, the one who hadn't been seen for 4 years. The detective checked her watch. I'll arrange for a patrol car to stay by your room, Mr. Vega. We're gonna need some officers to head to your place, secure the scene, and hunt for evidence, the detective told me. I just stood there, dazed, trying to wrap my head around it all, and managed to nod. And it'd be best if you held off on telling your wife's family anything for now. We'll let them know she's in the hospital with some respiratory issues. We need to keep our findings to ourselves while we dig deeper. We want them thinking everything's A-okay. Once the detective took off, it was just Emily and me sitting there in complete silence. The quiet was so heavy, it was almost like you could feel it pressing down. I walked over to her slowly, not knowing what to say or how to even start sorting through this crazy situation we found ourselves in. Emily, why? That was all I could spit out. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she struggled to get any words out. Finally, in a shaky voice, she said a name I hadn't heard in years. Sarah. Hearing it gave me chills down my spine. What do you mean by Sarah? I asked as I moved in closer. They murdered her, she whispered, and I felt like the ground was crumbling beneath my feet. Just then, a nurse came in to check on her vitals. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step outside for a moment, she said. We've got to tidy her up and run a few more tests. I stumbled out into the hallway, completely blindsided. Sarah, dead. Emily, acting. 6 years of being in the dark, and I didn't understand any of it. Dr. Mendes found me and handed over a glass of water. Michael, you should probably go home and get some rest. It's been a lot. I can't just leave her, I replied. What if someone tries to hurt her? We've got officers making sure she's safe, and we're not taking any chances. Go take a breather, pack a few things, and come back. We'll set you up with a place to rest here, he assured me. I finally agreed. I needed a change of scenery and a chance to make sense of it all. Plus, I wanted to be around when the officers checked out my house. Driving home felt surreal, like I was on this strange journey through a dream. Earlier, I'd driven these streets with Emily, having no clue life was about to flip upside down. When I got home, 4 officers were already there. While they searched the house, I went about gathering essentials for Emily and me, clothes, toiletries, and the book I'd been reading to her. It all felt like second nature, grounding me amidst the chaos. In our old bedroom, something caught my eye at the bottom of my sock drawer, a tiny key I couldn't remember ever seeing. An officer noticed and asked, "Any idea what this opens, Mr. Vega?" No clue, I admitted. It was a small key, possibly for a safety deposit box or a lock of sorts. He snapped a picture and tucked it away as evidence. What about anything your sister-in-law might have left here? Linda's stuff? She doesn't live here, but she might have left behind some things from sleepovers. We checked the guest room, and an officer pulled a little suitcase out from under the bed. This look familiar to you? No, there's never anything under there. I clean it regularly. When we opened it, there were documents, an old phone, and something that made my stomach churn. Sarah's bracelet, the one I'd given her for a birthday ages ago. The officer got Detective Suarez on the line right away. We powered on the phone, and it came to life with a dim battery. In the photo gallery, we found shocking images. Sarah, clearly battered, tied to a chair. Next to her, grinning at the camera, were Linda and David. "Oh my God," I mumbled, feeling sick to my stomach. The officer gently took the phone from me. "This is serious evidence, Mr. Vega. I need you to try and stay calm." But how could I? Those images were burned into my mind. My sister? She is really gone? The officer's silence said it all. By the time I made it back to the hospital, it was almost dark. Detective Suarez was there, waiting. "We managed to secure arrest warrants for Linda Hernandez and David Rojas," she said, "and we're tracking down Dr. Valenzuela through Interpol." "But what about anything on my sister?" I asked, torn between hope and dread. "Not yet, but those photos are damning. We're working on it. We're widening the area we're searching in. Can I go in to see Emily now?" I asked with urgency. "Yes, you can, but there's something you need to prepare yourself for," she replied, her voice a bit clearer. "What Emily's been saying? It's pretty disturbing." "What's she been saying exactly?" I asked. "It's best you hear it directly from her. Be ready, Mr. Vega. It's way more than we initially imagined." As I walked into the room, my heart was pounding in my chest. Emily was sitting up awkwardly in bed, holding a glass of water. As soon as she saw me, tears filled her eyes. "Michael," she whispered, almost inaudibly, "please, forgive me." I was left with no other choice. I sat on the edge of her bed, my thoughts spinning with questions. Why Emily? Why keep up this act for so many years? What really happened to Sarah? Emily shut her eyes tightly, as if gathering her strength. When she opened them again, there was a new resolve in her expression. "It started with my uncle's trust fund," she began. "But it went way beyond just money. Linda and David weren't only after the cash. They wanted us gone, completely out of the picture." I sat there, trying to understand her words while the room, with its clinical white walls and antiseptic smell, felt more like an eerie stage setting. "Why would they want you out of the way?" I asked, bewildered. Emily took a careful sip of her water. Her hands shook slightly, but her eyes remained locked on mine. "It's linked to my parents' home. It's not just any historical property. There's more to it. Something my dad hid before he died." My curiosity deepened. "What's that?" I pressed on. "Documents, Michael. Proof of David's illegal dealings with some politicians. Phony contracts, kickbacks, money laundering. My dad, being an accountant, found out about everything. He secured the evidence as a precaution, thinking he'd reveal it one day. But he never got that chance." "And Linda, your sister, she's in on this?" I asked, struggling to believe it. Emily nodded slowly. "Linda always wanted what was mine, my marriage, Dad's affection. When Dad passed and David spilled about the documents, she saw her chance. They faked that accident to get control over the trust fund, kept me drugged up, and began a secret search for those papers in the house. But you and Linda both own the house. Why go to such lengths? She could have just walked in," I pointed out. "It's not so straightforward. My dad was very cautious. The documents are in a concealed safe. I'm the only one who knows where it is and how to open it. Dad entrusted me with that information shortly before he died." Suddenly, a memory rushed back to me, the tiny brass key we discovered in my drawer. "Is this about that little brass key?" I asked. Emily's eyes widened. "You found it? Sarah hid it for you? She said it was the last place Linda would think to look." "The key's with the police now," I admitted. "But Emily, what truly happened 6 years ago? How did they fake that accident?" She stared out the window, the night now cloaking the city. "There was no accident. Linda spiked my food at a family dinner. The next thing I knew, I was hospitalized. Dr. Valenzuela was there, warning me that if I didn't comply, they'd kill you. They even showed me photos of armed men following you around. All I had to do was pretend to be paralyzed, have you oversee the trust fund for my supposed medical bills, while they quietly drained the money. Why didn't you try to contact me earlier?" "I did, Michael. I tried countless times. Initially, I'd blink messages at the nurses, but Linda was always nearby. Later, when Sarah started visiting more often, I found ways to show her something was off. And that's why Sarah disappeared," I added, my voice faltering. Emily nodded again, tears coursing down her face. Linda and David caught her messing with my medication. They snatched her up, then showed me photos of her beaten to ensure my compliance. They threatened I'd end up like her if I disobeyed. A wave of disbelief hit me hard. I held her trembling hand firmly. And Dr. Venuela? He cooked up phony medical records for me. He was in it from the get-go. He snagged a piece of the trust fund as his consultation fee. But when he wanted more, they shipped him off overseas. Detective Suarez walked in at that point, overhearing parts of our conversation. Mrs. Vega, I'm gonna need all the details on these documents you've mentioned and where Dr. Valenzuela might be. So, for the next hour, Emily spilled everything she knew. Over 6 years, Linda and David drained over $1 million from the trust fund. Emily guessed Dr. Valenzuela was hiding out in Argentina under an assumed name. The last bit I got about Sarah was that David had her holed up at some secluded property he owned just outside the city. But that intel was over a year old, Emily admitted, unsure if Sarah was still alive. Detective Suarez scribbled everything down carefully, then gave us both a serious look. We're searching for Linda and David. Patrols are keeping an eye out, but they vanished. They're not showing up anywhere they usually do. Someone might have warned them we're onto them. Who could have done that? I asked, worry creeping in. We're looking into it. Could be anyone, maybe someone at the hospital or even inside our ranks. Your wife was smart to mention those deep-rooted corruption webs, the detective said, lowering her voice. For her safety, we're going to move Mrs. Vega to another hospital, and you should think about coming with us. Is it really that bad? I asked. Based on what your wife's saying, these folks could be wrapped up in not just fraud and kidnapping, but maybe murder too. They'll go to any lengths, she answered. So they scheduled the transfer for early the next morning to a larger hospital in the city, where Emily could finally get the specialist care she needed after being drugged for so long. Undercover cops would make sure we were safe on the way. I spent the night sitting with Emily in that dim room, her face barely lit by a tiny lamp. Despite all we'd uncovered, I felt like I had more questions than answers. How did you endure all that for so many years? I asked her. 6 years of acting, seeing what was truly happening. Thinking of you kept me going, she said simply. If I blew my cover, they would have killed you. David had contacts, dangerous ones. I heard him tell Linda plenty of times how easy it would be to handle the Michael situation. But living like that? It was no life, Emily, like being locked up. I watched you sacrifice everything day after day, and I couldn't utter a word. Her voice wavered. The nights were the worst when you were asleep. Often Linda would force me to walk to keep my muscles from wasting away, and if I didn't do it, she'd threaten to hurt you. You'd be there, under their drugs, unaware of the nightmare around us. Linda saw to it you'd never know a thing. Our blinking was our secret language. My little act of resistance, she said, a faint, sad smile appearing. I came up with that code, hoping one day it might save you. But you have to understand, I was always being watched. Soon after, a nurse came in to check Emily's vitals. Once he was gone, the questions picked back up. You mentioned this started with your dad's files. What were they about? Forged contracts between David's building company and the state. They were jacking up costs and signing on places that didn't exist. My dad was their accountant before David took charge. He uncovered the fraud, siphoning millions in public cash. Why didn't he report it? He tried, but who listens to an old accountant over a big shot with political allies? That's why he secured those files, as his insurance. Before he fell ill, he showed me where they were hidden. Our talk was paused by a soft knock at the door. Dr. Mendes. Sorry it's late, but I wanted to check on Emily before she gets transferred, he said, looking over her gently. As he did that, My phone buzzed with a text from my sister, Lucy. "Where are you? Your house is empty, I'm worried," she wrote. I quickly responded. "Emily had complications. We're at the hospital. I'll call you tomorrow." She instantly texted back. "Which hospital? I'm on my way." I glanced over at the detective who'd come back into the room. "My sister's asking where we are. Should I tell her?" I wondered aloud. "I'd hold off for now," she advised. "Just let her know you'll check back in when things calm down a bit." Taking her words to heart, I tucked my phone away. Dr. Mendes finished his exam. Physically, she's improving, but she'll need some serious physical therapy to fully regain movement. 6 years without much activity have really taken their toll on her. "Is there any permanent damage?" Emily asked, her voice a bit shaky. "Tough to say right now, but with the right treatment plan, you can regain a lot of your abilities," he reassured us. Once the doctor left, Emily turned to me, her eyes filled with a determination that felt almost new. "I really need your help to track down Sarah," she pleaded. "If there's still a chance she's alive." I told them the authorities are on it. They've sent officers to David's place, but she's not there anymore. She was moved some time ago. I heard Linda on the phone and caught a mention of the lake house. David owns a cabin by the lake, though he never took me there. He only talked about it sometimes. I shared this with the detective, and she quickly made a few urgent calls. When she returned, she looked grim. "We've located the cabin, but we need to secure a warrant to enter. We're working on it," she said. By the time 3 a.m. rolled around, everything was set for the move. 2 hospital staff helped Emily into a wheelchair. She couldn't walk yet. Her muscles, though not completely wasted away, were pretty weak after what seemed like 6 years of real paralysis. Detective Suarez was supervising everything. We had an unmarked car at the hospital's back exit. 2 plainclothes officers were coming with us. "It'll take about 4 hours to get to the city," she explained. "We have a private clinic lined up with staff we trust." As we made our way through the quiet hospital corridors, a sense of unease crept over me. Everything seemed too smooth. If Linda and David were truly a threat, with all their connections, why hadn't they interfered yet? My unease morphed into full-blown panic when we reached the parking garage and I saw who was there. My sister, Lucy. "Michael!" she called out, rushing towards me. "Thank God I found you!" The detective quickly positioned herself in front of her. "Ma'am, this is a police operation. You can't be here." "Police? What's this all about?" Lucy looked utterly confused. "How did you track us down?" I asked, growing more alarmed. "A nurse friend called me, said Emily was being moved. Came across as urgent." The detective and officers exchanged worried glances. "Which nurse was this?" the detective pressed. "Laura. She works here at the hospital. She mentioned it seemed like an emergency." A chill ran through me. Laura? That name rang a bell. Laura was the nurse who initially cared for Emily, until Linda had her dismissed for being too costly. Before I could process this, the squealing of tires echoed in the garage as a black SUV came hurtling towards us. 3 armed men jumped out as the doors flew open. "Get down!" one of the officers shouted, pulling out his weapon. Chaos erupted in an instant. Gunfire and screams filled the air. I dove over Emily, shielding her with my body as her wheelchair toppled over, sending us to the ground. I felt a sharp pain in my shoulder. Amidst the mayhem, I saw Lucy running, not away, but toward the SUV. One of the men pulled her inside. "Lucy!" I yelled, stunned beyond belief. My own sister spared a glance back before they sped away. Her eyes weren't confused, they were determined. The officers tried shooting at the SUV's tires, but it was too late. The detective crouched next to us. "Are you injured?" she asked. My shoulder was wet with blood. A bullet had grazed me. "I'm all right," I assured them. Emily looked pale but alert. "They didn't hit me," she managed to say. Michael, there's something you need to know about your sister, the detective said, helping me up. She's been working with them. Did you ever have any idea? I shook my head, completely caught off guard. No way, I responded. Lucy always seemed like she had my back. Just then, another officer approached us, blood trickling down from a cut on his forehead. About that nurse Lucy mentioned, Laura Mendes? Turns out she hasn't worked here in 5 years, he reported. The detective cursed softly. We've got a serious leak on our hands. Change of plans. We're not heading into the city anymore. We quickly shuffled into a different car hidden in the garage, and a paramedic started patching up my shoulder. So, where are we off to now? I asked as the car drove off. A safe house, the detective replied, and I need you to tell me everything you know about Lucy. During the ride, my head was spinning with thoughts about Lucy's betrayal. How long had she been involved? Had it started from the very beginning? I thought about the way she kept pushing me to put Emily in a care facility, insisting I needed a break. Her motives weren't pure. It was all part of the plan. Lucy took over my calendar this past year, I recalled, memories clicking into place. She volunteered to handle Emily's appointments, payments, everything. She had access to all our personal info. The detective nodded, absorbing the details. The atmosphere in the car felt thick with tension, like everything was closing in around us. It seemed like a huge family conspiracy. But why? The words slipped from my mouth before I realized it, as if on a sigh. Emily, who had been quiet until then, spoke up in barely a whisper. Those papers my dad hid away, they aren't just about David, she said. There are lots of people tied up in this mess. Big names like politicians and business moguls, millions in dirty deals. She met my gaze, steady but heavy. Lucy's name is in there too, Michael. She's the connection between David and these officials. It hit me like a ton of bricks. My own sister, whom I believed to embody honesty and integrity, was enmeshed in corruption that had turned our lives upside down. I couldn't help but ask Emily, "Did you know this whole time?" She shook her head. I started figuring it out when I overheard Linda and David. At first, I thought they were only after the trust fund, but it was so much bigger than that. We drove up to a plain-looking building on the edge of town. It appeared like an old, worn-out warehouse from the outside, but inside, it was alive with activity. The detective motioned around, stating, "This is our tactical operations center. You'll be safe here while we set up the raid on the lake cabin." A medic continued tending to my wounds, and Emily was settled onto a makeshift bed. She looked exhausted, but relieved. For the first time in years, she could speak without fear. "I'm sorry, Michael," she said quietly when we were alone. "All this chaos is because of me." "It's not your fault," I insisted, holding her hand tightly. "You did what you had to for survival, to protect me. But this thing with Sarah, and now Lucy, we'll find Sarah," I vowed, despite the nagging doubt deep within me. "We'll bring everyone involved to justice." Emily squeezed my hand again, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "There's more you need to know. Something I overheard Linda saying over the phone. They thought I was out cold, but I hadn't taken all my pills." Mixed with curiosity and foreboding, I asked, "What's the story with Sarah and Lucy's involvement?" Emily turned to look at me, her eyes wide with fear. "Sarah's not gone, Michael. She's alive, and she has a child, yours." The revelation exploded in the cramped ops center, leaving my mind reeling. "That's impossible," I stammered, shocked. "How could Sarah have my kid?" Emily held my gaze and corrected me. "Not by blood, Michael. You remember Sarah's adopted, right? We've always known that." It felt like the world slipped out from under my feet. Sure, it was common knowledge in our family that Sarah was adopted, but I never saw this coming. "Look, we basically grew up as brother and sister. There's never been anything romantic between us, I said, my voice shaking a bit. Emily, speaking gently, continued, When I had my accident, Sarah was over at our place all the time helping out. You two spent a ton of time together, and I noticed you were getting closer, even when I was pretending to be asleep. I started recalling those tough early days after the accident, feeling exhausted all the time, hopes fading. Yes, Sarah had always been there for me, lending support. But that didn't mean we had a thing going on, I protested, even if my own memories were starting to betray me. I remembered a night in the kitchen with Sarah, feeling lost and vulnerable. She had been there through everything, helping take care of Emily. Then, there'd been that one-time kiss. I had told myself it was meaningless. How could I have guessed a child would be the result? Emily then told me the truth about what happened the next day. It wasn't about her medication like I thought. Linda and David had taken Sarah because she confessed she was pregnant with my child. Why keep this from me? I asked, feeling shock and anger rise inside. She explained, I only found out last week. I overheard Linda on the phone saying the kid was almost 2, and Lucy was plotting to get rid of Sarah to take him. Just then, Detective Suarez came in, looking all business. Detectives got permission for a search at the lake cabin. There'd been activity there, lights on and cars parked outside. Hearing this, I sprang up, ignoring the sharp pain in my shoulder. I insisted I needed to be present. Sorry, Mr. Vega, but this is a matter for the police, an officer told me. But my sister was there and maybe... I glanced at Emily, who nodded gently. My son could be there too. The detective looked puzzled. Your son? What are you talking about? I quickly filled her in on the situation. She listened carefully, her expression unreadable. That definitely complicates things, she eventually said. But I still can't let you come. It's too dangerous. I argued that if a child was involved, my presence might help calm everything down. Sarah would trust me, and the kid might feel safe seeing someone familiar. After some back and forth, she gave in a little. All right, you can come, but you stay with the medical team on the perimeter, she instructed. Once it's secure, you can go inside. Emily started to protest, wanting to come too. No way, I said firmly. You're barely able to move. Your job is to heal. Emily retorted, I've had enough rest these past 6 years, Michael. Plus, I know Linda well. I understand how she reacts when she's stressed. In the end, we came to an agreement. Emily could ride along but had to remain in the car with some police officers for safety. The operation was underway quickly. 4 unmarked vehicles packed with tactical officers and snipers headed out. The cabin was about an hour away. During the drive, Emily filled me in on more details. She had overheard some conversations. Linda had always wanted kids but couldn't have them. When she found out Sarah was pregnant, she saw an opportunity. The idea was to keep Sarah until the baby was born, then take the baby and, well, get rid of her. And Lucy, how does she factor into this? I asked. Lucy has connections with some corrupt politicians, Emily explained. She's been involved with David for a long time. Her plan was to pretend I was paralyzed to secure the trust and keep you distracted while they searched for some documents. And where are these papers? I asked. They're in a hidden safe in the fireplace at our parents' house, she said. That key you found? It's part of the combination. There's also a number sequence I know. The detective in the front was listening intently. Those documents could be crucial for this case, she noted. But for now, we need to focus on getting everyone out safely. As we were getting closer to the lake, darkness was just beginning to give way to the first signs of daylight. David's cabin was nestled in a really quiet, tucked-away spot, surrounded by trees and right up against the water. We parked our vehicles about 500 yards from the place. The officers spread out, stealthily moving through the trees around the cabin. We could see the lights inside and noticed 3 vehicles parked outside. A black SUV, the same one from the shootout we were in before, a gray sedan, and a red truck that I recognized instantly. "That's David's truck," I whispered. The detective nodded and gave the all clear over the radio. The plan was simple. Snipers were covering all possible exits while the tactical team would break in from 3 sides at the same time. "Remember, there's definitely a kid in there," the detective emphasized. "We've got to be really careful." My heart was pounding in my chest as the officers approached the cabin. The quiet of the morning was only broken by the occasional bird starting its day. Emily held onto my hand tightly, and then, out of nowhere, a scream broke the silence, quickly followed by the sound of glass shattering. "Go! Go! Go!" the detective ordered over her radio. Suddenly, everything was a whirlwind. The officers rushed into the cabin. We heard shouting, commands being shouted, and then gunshots. 2, 3 loud pops. "Oh my God!" Emily gasped, her nails digging into my skin. The wait afterward felt endless. Finally, a voice came over the radio. "Perimeter secure. 2 threats neutralized, 1 injured, 2 hostages unharmed. Repeat, hostages are safe." The detective turned to look at us. "Stay here until I give the signal." She got out of the car and raced toward the cabin. Emily and I sat in stunned silence, the quiet between us filled with the echoes of shock. After what felt forever, an officer came over and opened the car door. "You can come now. Take care." I helped Emily out and supported her as she gathered herself. We slowly made our way toward the cabin where Detective Suarez was waiting for us. "David's gone," she informed us bluntly. "Linda's hurt, but she'll recover. Lucy surrendered without a fight." I couldn't help but ask, anxious, "What about Sarah?" "The kids in the back room, they're all right. A medic's checking on them," she reassured me. We moved through the cabin's main area, trying not to look too much at David's covered body on the floor, or Linda being treated by paramedics, watched by a couple of officers. Lucy was sitting handcuffed in a corner, lost in her thoughts, but she looked up when we passed by. "Michael," she said softly, "I never wanted things to go this far." My legs didn't stop. I couldn't even begin to process my feelings towards her, my own sister, at that moment. The back room was snug but felt inviting. There was Sarah sitting on the bed holding a toddler. Her eyes glistened with tears when she saw me. "Michael," she whispered, "you came." The little boy, probably 2 years old, stared at me with curiosity. He definitely had my eyes, and Sarah's smile. All I could say was, "Sarah," before emotions overwhelmed me. I moved toward them carefully, not wanting to scare him. Sarah extended her hand. "Daniel, this is your dad," she gently told him. "The one I've told you about." The boy studied me with that intense curiosity only kids have. Then he gave me a shy smile, and I felt something inside me simultaneously break and heal. Emily stood in the doorway, observing it all with a mix of emotions. Sarah, surprised, spoke. "Emily, you're up and about." "It's a long story," Emily replied, stepping closer. "Probably just as long as yours." The women exchanged a long look, almost sizing each other up, realizing they both endured the same ordeal. "I was told you were dead," Sarah finally said. Emily nodded. "Linda showed me pictures, saying they got rid of you, then fed me lies about you being killed." The detective then gently interrupted. "You all need to head to the hospital for a full checkup. Then we need to get your official statements." The next few hours were like living in a fog. We bounced from hospital rooms to endless rounds of questioning by investigators. That's when Sarah opened up, telling us how Linda and David had kidnapped her once they discovered she was pregnant. At first, they kept her in a house on the outskirts, then moved her to the cabin. Their plan was to take Daniel right after he was born, she explained. But Linda got attached to him, which made her treat me better and let me care for him. That's probably what kept me safe. I was curious about Lucy's involvement, so I asked, "When did Lucy become tangled in this mess?" Sarah replied with a hint of bitterness. She was in on it from the start. Her idea was to use me as leverage against Emily. At first, she feigned helping you guys just to keep an eye on things. But eventually, her greed took over. She wanted everything: documents, the trust fund, you name it. Detective Suarez filled us in that Linda had started talking, despite her injuries. She was trying to cut a deal by revealing everything about the corruption ring. She's naming some big players, he told us. State officials, key business figures, even a federal judge. This will shake the city's political world. 3 days later, once doctors cleared us, we headed back to the city with police escort. Our first stop was Emily's parents' home, now a crime scene. Under Detective Suarez's watchful eye, Emily led us to the living room. She removed a special stone from the fireplace, exposing a small hidden space. With the key I found in my drawer, and a combination Emily knew by heart, she opened a concealed safe. Inside were stacks of documents, USB drives, and photos, all the incriminating evidence Emily's father had gathered over the years. This will ensure everyone involved faces justice, the detective assured us while packing the evidence. The following weeks were a whirlwind of testimonies, medical visits, and tough decisions. Emily was progressing rapidly in physical therapy, regaining the movement she'd pretended to have lost for 6 years. Meanwhile, Sarah and little Daniel were relocated to a safe house under the prosecutor's watchful eye. A month after the chaos subsided, Emily, Sarah, and I met up to discuss what the future held for us. We couldn't keep avoiding the inevitable conversation any longer. Emily took the lead. She mentioned that the doctors expected me to fully recover in a few months. "I've been thinking about what I'll do next," she remarked. "So, any ideas?" I asked, feeling a bit anxious. "I'm selling my share of the family home and moving to a big city. I've got an offer to teach contemporary dance there." She paused, meeting my gaze. "I need to start fresh, Michael." I got her message. She wasn't asking me to go with her. I was about to speak, but she stopped me. "You don't have to say anything. These past 6 years changed us." I acted like I was stuck, but truth is, both of us were. She glanced at Sarah, then looked back at me. "Now, we've got the freedom to choose our paths." Sarah, who hadn't said much, finally chimed in softly. "I don't want to stand between you two. What happened between us, Michael? It was under extreme circumstances. I'm not expecting anything." "But Daniel is my son," I said. "And you?" "You've always mattered to me, Sarah. I get it. And Daniel needs his dad." "But don't stay with me out of obligation," she replied. Emily stood up slowly, leaning on her cane for support. "You both need time," she advised. "Wait," I said. "I can't let things end like this, not after everything." She gave me a bittersweet, peaceful smile. "I'm not saying goodbye, Michael. I'm just giving you space to figure out what we both truly want." After Emily left, Sarah and I sat quietly for a long time. Eventually, she reached for my hand. "So what do we do now, Michael?" "Honestly," I said, "I don't know. But I want to be there for Daniel and see where that takes us, Sarah. No pressure, no guilt." Half a year flew by, and a new beat took over our lives. Emily did end up making the move to the city like she had always wanted. Her career as a dance instructor really kicked off. We kept in touch and slowly built a careful friendship, healing old scars little by little. Meanwhile, Sarah, Daniel, and I settled into a snug little place on the edge of town, where we began to reconnect and form our own unique but loving family unit. Every so often, memories from our past would resurface, but their hold on us weakened with time. Linda was handed a 30-year sentence for kidnapping, fraud, and conspiracy, while Lucy got off with 15 years for assisting the authorities. Their entire messy network, including David's involvement, unraveled, taking down officials and business people who thought they were above the law. As for me, I returned to crafting, opening a small shop right in the heart of the town. Each night, when I tucked Daniel in and shared a bedtime story, I felt like life had finally offered me a second chance after all the pain and deception. The last time I saw Emily was at the grand opening of her dance academy. She was radiant, almost like she had been reborn. We embraced for what felt like forever, with no words necessary. We both understood that our separate journeys had led us exactly where we belonged. "Are you happy?" she asked just before we parted. I truly was, and said so. "And you?" I asked. "I'm getting there," she said with a smile, "one day at a time." That pretty much sums up my story. I spent 6 years looking after my paralyzed wife, until a doctor insisted I call the police. What happened next turned my world upside down, but it also gave me the opportunity to rebuild it, with truth, with pain, and most importantly, with love.